When I was little, I was sure I was going to be a scientist who studied bugs. I used to spend hours in our little back garden digging for ants and looking for the houses they constructed in the clay. After all, when I was 5, if there were carpenter ants, why couldn't they have a house? This led eventually to me getting one of those ant farms shipped from the Netherlands that you can put on a table. Fascinated. I wondered what they were thinking about as they went about their work so diligently on their little highways. Did they have families they went back to at the end of the day, like my mum and dad? Did they bicker with their siblings like I did with my brother? I half imagine them singing songs as they burrowed through the dirt, or speaking some kind of ant language with waving arms that was a bit like a semaphore. Just imagine an admiral ant on his flagship, standing in the prow and sending signals to the fleet. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, but they can not only communicate through touch, but also through scent and sound and pheromones. So I even gave them names like Bummy or Bobby or Little George. My brother would ask, how do you really know that that one is Little George? I just do. I said, I just do. They are my ants and not yours anyway, so why do you care? But skeptic that he was, he just kept muttering, it could be Oscar or Caroline or Gladiola. A name I think he learned from a seed packet in the kitchen for the flowers Mother never seemed to have the time to plant. I didn't realise that my brother was becoming jealous and really just wanted my attention, so I started calling him Little Philip and ruffling his hair. But for some reason, he just didn't like the name. I'm not an ant, he insisted, and went running off calling, Mum, Mum. Eventually, adorable little Philip decided to play a trick on me. He took a screwdriver, a Phillips, of course, and when I was out in the back garden studying a snail on a weed stalk, he went into my parents' room, shut the door, and carefully opened up the farm at the foot of their bed. The ants, thrilled by the chance for new digs, decided to build a home under the blankets. The screams that same night were rather horrifying, and the wicked grin on my brother's face gave the game right away. Philip! I wailed as we stumbled into the hallway. What have you done? That is what you get for calling me names I don't deserve, he said coolly. But by the time we were all marched downstairs for a reckoning, Philip already had his cover story set. I always thought he would make a great master criminal because he was so good at covering his tracks. I was just so worried that all those cute little ants, I thought they would suffocate in there, and then Lexi would be really upset and start to cry, and I just love her so much. I just thought it best to set them free. The expression, I thought it best, was something he learned from my mother whenever she explained to our father how she managed the family budget for that week. And father, he fell right into the trap. Never mind that it took weeks to get all of the ants completely out of their bedroom. They brought the exterminator to our house the next day when I was at school, but saw the truck driving away when I came home. I sat on the step for hours. But father, he was not swayed by my grief. He swore, I will never allow this kind of thing in our house again. And as for a cat or a dog, absolutely forget it. Fine, I said, but how come you allowed a little brother to live here? Philip just stuck his tongue out at me from the corner. Mother could only shake her head and murmur, sorry, dear, but it's for the best. Philip was rewarded for his compassion and caring. And I was left with a vague sense of guilt that it had all been my fault in the first place for wanting to study the lives of ants. So I turned to my reading instead. And despite the fact that a teacher once said to my parents in year 5 that there would be nothing left for me to read by the time I reached university, I made my way through a good many of the classics before I even started secondary school. When I was in my 3rd and strongest prescription of eyeglasses, Father said, "Maybe we should have let you keep those ants." Phillips snickered. "Yeah, she seems starting to look like an ant." And he went around the house calling me Gladiola. He even made up a song about Gladiola, who was in love with an ant, though he never sang it when Mum and Dad were around. But what made me really want to study words? I'd like to say that it was a meet cute that led me in that direction. As if when I was in my 1st year at uni, I misread the name of the class on etymology for entomology, and so ended up studying the history of words. Or because the professor was quite lovely, really. And she said the class would be cancelled if I dropped out, and I felt sorry for her. But the truth is, it wasn't Charles Dickens or Jane Austen, though they did awake my mind to worlds other than my own. Nor was it a chance meeting with the class on semantics. No, it was because I was puzzled by how easily words could be misinterpreted, or worse, managed to manipulate people. I suppose I owe that to Philip. But it was really because of a letter addressed to my father that my mother intercepted and read when I was just starting year 6. This letter led to a bigger upheaval in the parental bed than an entire ant farm could have done. And all of a sudden, words like trust and love became freighted with more meaning than they could possibly carry or express. And I suppose I was just too young to understand and thought it was the words themselves that had caused the problem. A word like loyalty, for example. Those few phonemes were charged with such significance and emotion, and yet seemed so unequal to the responsibility to set things right. We could try to marshal words like ants build homes, but words often easily collapsed under the weight of expectation and human need. But I suppose I found my vocation, if not avocation, when I was taken to a psychologist to talk about how my parents' divorce was affecting me. My mum was sure that my obsession with books was only an avoidance of real life. But I discovered to my delight that the psychologist not only loved to hear the summaries of the stories I read, but once in a while asked me to frame the events of my daily life as stories too, to help me find the meaning and direction and possibilities as well. Looking back, I realised he was much better at what he did than I could have possibly known at 11 years old. He also helped my mother to understand that if I wasn't interested in boys, it wasn't because of the divorce, and she didn't need to feel guilty as if my father had turned me away from men by cheating on her. That was a long journey too, but at least because of the doctor's help, we were able to take the first steps together. So it was that I became a Jungian psychologist myself. I specialised in adolescent trauma and needs, because when we are first stretching our wings is when we can be held most closely down from finding our true place in the world. That doctor helped me find mine, and I was determined to do the same for others, to help them be whole the best they could, to help them achieve a balance between the masculine and feminine aspects of their self, the ones they showed to the world and the ones that emerged in their dreams of both the everyday and the deeper human past. People who know the story of my childhood sometimes ask what happened to my brother, and as a joke, I tell them he became a corporate lawyer who specializes in helping big companies get out of tax evasion charges. But truth is, and You're likely to find this amusing. He became a science teacher at a secondary school. And he says he owes it all to me. I visited him once at his school, where we both immediately launched into the Gladiola song. My sister, Gladiola, only drinks cherry cola, and she only loves her aunts. But my passion for words, how we say things and how we define them, became awakened in a very practical direction. And so when the school announced they were looking for people to join this new dictionary project, I jumped at the chance. Sorry, give a therapist chance to vent. Spoke too much.
Nah, wish I'd had a little brother like that. I probably would have beat the heck out of him over those ants, but
I still love him. Like my mum still lost my dad. That's what made it so sad that they never found their way back to each other again.
But, like you said, everyone needs someone they can really count on, don't they?
Yes, I suppose they do.